Sure. Here's a story based on your title. My husband caught me cheating. It was a crisp autumn evening, and the golden glow of sunset bathed our living room in warmth. I sat on the couch, my heart heavy with guilt. What had started as a fleeting moment of excitement had spiraled into a storm of betrayal I could no longer ignore. It wasn't planned. At first, I met Ryan during a work conference. He was charming, attentive, and different from the familiar rhythm of my husband, Daniel. Daniel and I had been together for 10 years, and while our love was steady, it lacked the spark it once had. With Ryan, I felt seen in a way that both thrilled and terrified me. What began as innocent conversations grew into stolen moments, lingering touches, and finally, a decision I now deeply regretted. But I never thought Daniel would find out. I believed I was careful. I believed I could keep the two parts of my life separate. That belief shattered one evening when Daniel came home early from work, his face pale and tight with anger. He held my phone in his hand, unlocked to a series of texts I had carelessly forgotten to delete. The damning words on the screen hung in the air between us. "I trusted you," he said, his voice breaking. Those 3 words cut deeper than any shouting or accusations ever could. I wanted to explain, to justify my actions, but how could I? There was no excuse for what I had done. Tears streamed down my face as I tried to speak, but Daniel held up a hand. "I don't want excuses," he said. "I just want the truth." "Why?" The truth was complicated. It wasn't about Daniel's shortcomings or even about Ryan. It was about me, about my insecurities, my fear of monotony, and my selfishness. But none of that mattered now. All that mattered was the pain I had caused the man who had stood by me through everything. Daniel didn't say much after that. He packed a bag and left, leaving me alone with my thoughts, my guilt, and the silence of an empty house. In the days that followed, I tried to reach out to him, but he needed space. I respected that, though it was agonizing. I began therapy, determined to understand my actions and work on myself, regardless of whether Daniel would give me another chance. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, Daniel and I began to communicate again. It wasn't easy. Trust, once broken, isn't easily repaired. But he saw my efforts, and I saw his willingness to consider rebuilding what we had lost. Looking back, I realized the affair wasn't the real issue. It was a symptom of deeper problems. Problems I had ignored until they nearly destroyed everything I loved. While I'll always carry the weight of what I did, I'm grateful for the opportunity to confront my flaws and grow, whether or not Daniel and I find our way back to each other. Would you like me to expand or adjust any part of the story? Daniel and I agreed to meet after months of sporadic text messages and a few tense phone calls. We chose a neutral location, a small cafe we used to visit during our early days of dating. It felt like the right place to start, though the irony of returning to a happy memory while surrounded by so much pain wasn't lost on me. He arrived early, sitting at a corner table, his hands wrapped around a steaming mug. He looked tired, not just physically, but emotionally, like the weight of what had happened had taken its toll on him as much as it had on me. When he saw me, his expression didn't soften, but he nodded, gesturing for me to sit. "Thanks for coming," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Daniel leaned back in his chair, studying me. I almost didn't, but I figured we needed to talk. I nodded, fiddling with the edge of my sleeve. The silence between us was deafening, but I didn't want to rush him. I owed him that much. Finally, he spoke. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About what happened." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Me too." He leaned forward, resting his arms on the table. "I'm not going to lie to you or to myself. What you did broke me. It broke the trust one thought we had, and I don't know if I can ever get that back." Tears welled in my eyes, but I blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me overnight, or even at all, but I needed you to know that I'm working on myself. I've started therapy. I'm trying to understand why I did what I did, so I can make sure it never happens again. Not to you, not to anyone. Daniel's expression didn't change, but I noticed a slight softening in his eyes. Why didn't you come to me instead of him? That question had haunted me since the day he caught me. I don't have a good answer, I admitted. I was selfish. I was scared. I thought you didn't see me anymore, that we were just going through the motions. And instead of facing that with you, I ran away from it. I made the worst mistake of my life. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. You're right. It was a mistake. But it wasn't just your mistake. I've been thinking about how I might have contributed to it, too. Maybe I did take you for granted. Maybe I wasn't as present as I should have been. Hearing him take even a fraction of the blame broke my heart all over again. Daniel, no. This isn't on you. What I did was my choice, and it was wrong. Please don't carry that. He looked at me for a long time, as if searching for something, maybe sincerity, maybe hope. I don't know if we can fix this, he said finally. But if we're going to try, it's going to take time, and a lot of work. I nodded, a mixture of relief and fear washing over me. I'll do whatever it takes. For the first time in what felt like forever, Daniel reached out and placed his hand over mine. It wasn't forgiveness, and it wasn't reconciliation, not yet, but it was a start. Let me know if you'd like more or a different direction. In the weeks that followed, Daniel and I began the slow, painful process of rebuilding. We attended couples therapy, where we confronted the cracks in our relationship that had gone unnoticed for years. It wasn't easy. There were moments of anger, tears, and silence that felt unbearable. But amidst the pain, there were also small signs of hope. We started spending time together again, even if it was just quiet walks or sharing a meal. Trust was fragile, but every honest conversation, every effort to be vulnerable, added a thread to the tapestry we were trying to mend. It was clear we wouldn't return to who we once were, but maybe that was for the best. This time, we were learning to love each other with eyes wide open, flaws and all. And while the future was uncertain, we were choosing to fight for it, together. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe my channel.